Right. Morning guys, welcome back to NZ Marko Kustoms. So, if you're new to the channel, at the moment I'm restoring old vintage cars. I'd like to be doing custom stuff, but you know that will come in time. So at the moment, this was the first project I've done in this workshop, or here anyway. So this is a 25 Studebaker standard 6. So we spent, I'd say, most of 2 years restoring that. Basically a full ground up rebuild. It's as close to new as we can get without making everything brand new, but we've gone through everything. Motor, gearbox, diff, wheel bearings, anything that was worn or broken or whatever, we've rebuilt it. And made lots of new parts. Made the door for the driver's side, made that whole convertible top, the whole thing. The clamps for the back, I made them by hand. I made all lots of little bits and pieces for it, as well as panel beat and paint and whatever. So yeah, we've done a lot to it. But anyway, so this is the next project, which I'm in the middle of, which is quite a bit smaller budget, more just doing cosmetic repair and rust repair on this thing. It's sort of one of those going back on the road one day jobs. Basically stripped it down, painted the chassis, as much as I would like to rebuild all the suspension. It's just been cleaned up and painted and put back together. It's pretty worn out. And we stripped the body down. Originally we thought we were just going to have to clean the body down and do a little bit of repair in the front of the cowl. End up having to replace basically the bottom of the car. If you go back through some of the early videos, Swiss cheese Dodge. Yeah, we basically knew there was a bit of repair in the front fenders and rear fenders, or guards, depending on which part of the world you are. That was obvious. We could obviously see there was rot in the front of the cowl, you know, at the bottoms. We knew the running boards were shot, and you know, maybe a wee bit of work on the balances and whatever. But we got the body down. As soon as I started stripping it out, getting all the wood out of it and all the seats out of it, I could basically see the bottom of the car was shot. We've replaced the seat pan, basically both bottoms of all this. This side I've done quite a bit of a repair. I may as well have replaced it. Like rebuilt all the rear wheel arches, rear corners of the back of the tub. Got a couple of small patches right at the bottom of the back of the tub. Same on this side, but more extensive way to replace that whole bottom side. And we made a brand new bottom seat pan. So yeah, and then rebuilt quite a bit of just structure on the inside, all the little brackets and bits and pieces. Most of all that stuff was just either so thin or just rotted away. You couldn't really see it until you actually got the car apart and cleaned all the old paint off it. So it was quite bad. I rebuilt quite a bit of inner structure too, like you sort of got the outside skin off some of the back of it. Actually had to go into the inner structure as well, even around the wheel arches and stuff like that. Some of that was quite rotten, you know, stripping down, because basically the car came complete. It was full of crap and rubbish and shit like that, so I had to strip it all out, pull it all apart. So as long as that come to me, all apart, you know, and cleaned up, I had to do all that. So that was probably, you know, a better part of $5 me screwing around and getting it cleaned up, let alone doing anything else, you know. So I'm about to ring the guy and see whether he can come here next week or this week, and spend that time cleaning up that motor and gearbox outside. It'll get the pressure washer out and he can scrape all the shit off it and clean it up. And then we can work out what we're going to do for paint for that, and yeah, go from there. And I'm going to start repairing this other one. So I'll make a couple of phone calls and we'll get into it. Right, we'll have a quick measure up here, see what we need to replace. I'm hoping some of it I might be able to just do like some small patches in. You know, maybe weld up a few cracks. I'm hoping maybe I can just weld this up too, just back through to the inner piece and just smooth it out. We're gonna have to cut a piece in here. We might even just cut this whole front section off because it's pretty pitted, but to here back it's not actually that bad. Like there's a wee bit pitted, but it's not that bad. We'll just put a wee section in there, I think, from probably here, and we'll just cut it this side of that piece and we'll replace that. So we'll do some quick measurements, see what we need. We'll cut a couple pieces off and we'll start welding it on, and that'll be that one done. Righty, so what I'm going to do, I've cut this piece there forward to the sheet. I don't need it all, but I need a piece for down here. Hopefully there's enough there. Actually, I need to double check that. Right. Yeah, we'll make that work. Sweet. Yeah, perfect piece for now. So, I only want down to here. Just where that line is. I'm just going to lay this over the top. Cut down this edge. And we'll start cutting down this edge. And I might do that old cut and butt like Brett does from Halfass Kustoms. So I'll just clamp this on here in a few places. Start cutting, and then we'll just start tacking this on, and then we can transfer everything else on afterwards. Then we'll just cut this back to here when we're getting up to here. Just grab a couple more clamps. Alright, that's that tacked on. I wanted it off a bit down there, but it doesn't matter. By the time it's cleaned up and ground up and put all the bits back in it, you will never know. So yeah, it's Brent from Halfass Kustoms, cut and butt. I love that method. It's good. And just lay it over the top, a few tacks on it, and then start cutting and just push it down to the right level and weld her on. So after lunch, unfortunately, the day hasn't been very productive with picking up that and then talking to a couple of three people. I sort of lost quite a bit of time, but we'll get this welded on after lunch, nick those pieces out, clean that up, and then we'll put our other little patch in down here, and this will be done apart from a couple of little other bits. We'll give it a clean up and it'll be ready for etch and primer and body filler and whatever else it needs to make it look right. So yeah, and we'll carry on from there. Alright, get straight on. Alright, let's get welding. Right, so before I get going, I just learned that the guy owns this land here. He's going to plough the whole lot and re-sow the grass, and I'm just not sure when. So I'm going to have to haul ass because I don't want to be painting this thing when that is ploughed, because it's just going to be an absolute bitch because it'll be just too much fucking dust and dirt. So I'm going to try and haul ass and do some extra time here, and try and see if I can get this car, hoping to get all the metal work done, all the body work done, and try and start painting within the next 4 to 5 weeks if I can. Right, so I've got that welded in, so I'm about to give it a clean up with the grinder. Knock this down, give it a little bit of a panel beat, obviously cut the slots out, and DA it, whatever, and then I've got a couple of little bits and pieces around the ends there somewhere, whatever end it is, can't remember, to clean up and do a couple of minor repairs on. So we'll give this stuff a grind off in a dolly, and then we'll attack those other couple of bits and pieces, and then we'll give it a good roll ox and DA, and so it's ready to basically, next step, bolt on the car and prime and wheel it, scratch the body filler and whatever else. So we'll get this done, and then we'll come back to you. Alrighty, I'm going to try one of these new frickin' stripper discs just to clean up the surface where it's a bit rusty, sort of on. I've got those patches all in, I've been cleaned up. I've still got to do something with this. I'm going to try and just see if I can spot it up and weld it up. I think it should be okay. Everything else is pretty good. But I'm just going to try that stripper disc, see if it'll just clean this bit of surface that's come up, and then I'll treat it. I'll get that stuff out and we'll brush in it where it's bad, which is probably most of it, but it's not that bad, but it's enough to be annoying. So yeah, I've still got to do a little bit of grinding in there, but I'm not too panicked because it won't be seen. You know, I'll put a little seam set or something like there, and it'll be texture coated anyway. It's on the inside. I just didn't want to grind it too thin, especially in the corner. I could avoid it. So yeah, I'll just run out with that, one of those stripper discs, and just see how that performs. It's the first one of those I've used of this particular brand. Yeah, and they're about half or the price will, no, they're a bit, well, they're $12 plus GST, and I think the other ones are like 30 something bucks. So they're about a third of the price. So probably like $13.50 or something like that by the time you add GST or whatever it is. I don't know, well, probably a little bit more than that. Probably 13. Yeah, I don't know. Somewhere around that, $13.50, $14 sort of type thing. So you can almost get 3 for the price of 1 of the 3 M's. So we'll give them a try. Alrighty, so it's both balances just sitting back on the body or chassis, making sure everything's good. I do notice I've got to nick these holes out. That was where it was, part was rotted, so I'll mark that, and at some point I'll nick them out. I'm trying to actually work out what those bubbles for, but it's obviously depending on whether it's left hand or right hand drive. It's where the steering knuckle fits in the gearbox. So that's cool. So yeah, that's good. That one's cleaned up to that point. I'm just sitting them on the car, so at least then I can just, they're kind of out of the ride, and I can make sure that everything is right. That one there's not quite so bad, but that one there was quite critical to make sure it was right. So that's cool. I actually may see how that one's notched out. I may actually do that with the rest of them, because those ones are actually rusted out a little bit down where they sat. They're a bit thin where they were sat, so I might actually later on, I'm not worried about now, but before I start doing the rest of the body work or whatever, I might just actually notch all those pieces out so they're not actually touching that quite so much. So I might do that with them, because that'll just save a piece rotting out, because they're clearance for the back ones, because obviously sit a bit higher, but I might just notch them out a whole lot. Just do a slight modification. Just put a little bit of clearance there so they sit over those things and they're sort of not touching quite so much, to give them an opportunity to rust. It's kind of what I'm getting at. But it's awesome. Absolutely fucking stoked with that one. That one really was just a couple of simple repairs really. So that's good. So we'll grab a front fender. I'm not too worried about the doors. I don't have to do any rust repair. Not that I can remember. But so I think I'll may as well grab this one. And we'll start planning our rear repair. And then the repair down here. But anyway, I'll get it up on there. I might actually run over it with a stripper disc and clean it up. And yeah, these are going to have to be all etched and whatever, but yeah, might just run over a strip of this so it's not so rusty looking, and we'll work out our repair, what we've got to do to make it right at the back. Right, so I got this up here. I'm going to have to try and work with some way of anchoring it to the bench at some point. With the shape of it's kind of awkward. I was hoping to be able to maybe put a couple of screws. I might make something so I can bolt it, or something so I can screw something on there that I can bolt that to on the outside. Obviously depending whether I'm doing the left or the right. And whatever. I think the first thing I need to do is probably, I don't know if I'll cut this off, but I might get this piece off, hammer this out to try and get it the right shape because it's very collapsed in, and work this edge a bit, beat that back to reasonably straight. I'll give it a clean up maybe tomorrow. I was going to do it now, but I think I need to straighten this out to see where I'm going. We're not going to have to do a major repair, but I think where this is really beaten, it might be better off to come back a bit to get away from that smashed up metal. So it's because it's all stretched. It's all stretched here. It's probably not too bad back here. There's actually a few pinholes in there. I might be better off to come back to, it's not actually a line back there, so it's cool. It's just flat. So I might be better off to come back to about here. Just because it's so beaten and thin, cut a section out of here and we'll just weld it along that edge, I think. Once we get this sort of straightened out, and we'll have to rebuild this piece. The thing about it, should be able to use most of it. We'll just, if I get a bit of that 2mm, we'll make a piece to weld back onto here. I don't know. Not that probably. I'll see if I can maybe hammer something in, might make a groove in something, in a piece of steel, something, and just hammer those couple of little notches in, I guess. Because part of that's actually okay. It's more just this piece here, it's rotten. So we'll repair that, but yeah, well, we need to get this back to close to original shape first. But yeah, I think we'll have to cut it back in this vicinity somewhere, because you can see there's a pinhole there. And it's fairly hammered, it's very messed up. So we'll be better off to just come past this and put some fresh steel in there. I think it should be pretty flat through here. Like that. There runs out here and there, so I'm not having to worry about putting those in. There's a couple, I need a couple of little dints, and the rest of it, I get a little bit of hammering, doling, and little bits and pieces. Also, we're going to make a piece through here, replace that. But yeah, we'll concentrate on this back section, and then we'll move to that. But yeah, I think that's be the best plan, is chop it off through here somewhere, and then make a new piece and fix that and weld it on. Right, let's get hammering. Righty, so you just see me roll it in English rule. That was just mainly to try and get it to roll out smooth. It's still collapsed in a bit, but at least it's a bit more user friendly. It's still pretty hammered, but I'm not trying to save it. I'm just trying to get it back out to a reasonable shape so we can work with what's in here, if you know what I mean. Because it was pretty beaten. Which one of these? Mark that frickin' hole. Where's me? Mark a pen. Whew. There. I'll cut that piece off too. We'll work with that bit later. Just have a look. Where the hell is that hole? There. So we want to cut over that. I think that's what we need to do. Some of that vicinity. Yeah, it's not too bad. Actually, when I cut this off, I might roll the English wheel just up in there a little bit further, if you know what I mean. Actually worked quite well, just to fucking just flatten this shit out a bit. I didn't even hardly have any tension. I could push it sideways, but I just wanted to try and get a bit of the queer shape out of there. And I hammered and dolly this. I just straightened it out a bit. It needs a wee bit more work, but we roughed it out so it's reasonable. So here's that other piece again. So it was on there. You can see where the edge of that was the piece that was folded up here. I'll straighten it out. I'll straighten this out. I'll come back to you. Right, I'm going to cut this section out up to here. And I'm going to just run down the inside of the bend over here. Same one here. I'm going to try not to replace this. I might be able to actually get in there and panel beat that a little bit better once I get that off. And I know that's the end of the guard there and here, or fender. So I'll make that piece, weld that and obviously leave it a little bit long so we can, I'll better bend that piece, I'll mark it and bend that little section up, which goes on to, where's my other bit is, this piece. So it folds over into that piece there, so we need I don't know, but over 1/4 of an inch, somewhere between 1/4 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch bent down, and then I'll repair this and we'll like that back in there. So I'll do that. I contemplated freaking cutting it back here, but just that hole, and it's still a bit rough in there, it's a bit stretched, where it's not so stretched in here. So I'll better put a better piece of metal in there and it'll be flatter. So yeah, and I'm hoping I might be able to maybe just run it through the slip roller or something like that just to get that shape, but I'll overlay this on the so I get the right dimensions, because it is curved in here a little bit. It's not dead square, if you know what I mean. So I'll trim that out. Right, so we've got this pretty closely shaped. I'm not sure if you've seen on the footage, I put this through the slip roller and it's pretty close to the right profile. I try to get it as close as I could, obviously. And we're about the same, but at least it's flat, not being stretched. So in theory we should end up with a nice transition down the bottom. I've left a little bit extra meat here because I just wasn't sure. I was going to cut it off, then I thought we might want to tuck it back into here and weld it in a bit nicer. But I wasn't sure. So I just left this a little bit long here yet. But I think we're pretty good that we can get this all positioned up and clean this up. Clean up around the edges of this and we'll at least start tack welding this in tonight. I might try and get it fully finished, we'll see, and then hopefully tomorrow morning, depending on obviously how we go, but I'd like to, if I can, get this repaired and dollied out. I'm hoping by lunchtime I might be able to get this finished tomorrow. I'm going to come in at 7 and just try and get a good solid 5 hours on this and then get the next one started. So I think this is the better one of the two, I think. Wow, kind of, you know what I mean. Yeah, 1.5 dozen yellow. It's less rotten down here, and it's kind of less rotten down here, but it's more rotten around there, so it's kind of, I guess, 50-50. You know, we've got a few cracks and shit to load up, but I think we should be able to get this round under here, and at least then, if we don't get this finished by tomorrow morning, I'm not too panicked. As long as we can get this done, we can repair that and get it back on at some point. But if we can get this or this shit back on here, absolutely awesome. I think I'll give this a bit of a clean up. I think this here's a bit tweaked, I think. There's a bit of a bend in there. Oh, you can see it's cracked. So this is going to come back down. So I think if we pull that out and weld it on, that'll help hold that back in position. We're going to do some repairs here too. Weld this up and repair this. So yeah, I think we'll clean this up and then we'll start welding it in. Right, just give you a quick update. So I've got that welded in, reasonably cleaned up. I'll obviously do a little bit of hammer and dialing on here. It's actually where the joint is. It's slightly pulled it or pushed this way. So that's all right. I'd rather it be in than out. I probably had the gap a little bit close, and it's just pushed the metal that way. So that's no biggie at the end of the day. So I might come down here after the tea and or dinner, or after 5 o'clock meal, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. And I might start. I don't know whether I'll start doing this or whether I might make. I might repair this. I'm not worried if I don't get it on, but we might just make the bits up to fix this, which won't take too long. Spend another hour down here or whatever, and maybe get this repaired and on, if not just repaired. So yeah, I'll go home and charge my phone up a bit, because it's on like about 10% or less, and yeah, we'll come back later on and do a bit more, and depending on how I get on with that, I might actually give this a hit with this and just clean the surface up a bit better. But that's not a bad repair actually. I'm pretty happy with that. It's nice. I managed to get that curve match pretty good too, so that'll make a hell of a difference when we come to do, put a smear filler on there, and that'll transition out really easy. That thing was a real pig because everything was really beaten up. This isn't quite so beaten up, but it's probably more rusty, especially the body. Mind you, that was probably a massive job too. I didn't do a lot of the metal repair, apart from fixing the door and a few. I did a bit of stuff, but I didn't do, I did more hammer and dialing and fixing. Apart from the regular valance, made that door and a few other bits and pieces. I did a lot of hammer and dialing and finished off stuff. I didn't do the bulk of the repair, whereas I'm doing all the repair on this. But that was really beaten up. This is it's nice and crisp in the lines, and it's not all bent and twisted and out of shape and crunched up and bent up so much. I could get a few dints and dings in it, but nothing major. But that was really quite bent up, the whole lot of them. I had to do a lot of straightening and shrinking and whatever to get that stuff to even look as good as it does. Whereas this here is a lot nicer general shape within reason. But yeah, anyway, we'll catch you after, and we'll finish trying to get, well, the majority of this finished up, except for we'll take that piece tomorrow. But we'll at least get this all cleaned up and that ready to, with a couple of frickin' welds in it tomorrow, and sort this corner out and whatever, you know what I mean? Alright, we'll catch you right on. Right, so I'm back down here for an hour or so. What I want to do is I want to rebuild this piece so it's ready to go back on in the morning. So obviously it sits in there. Yeah, obviously fits it up against there. So yeah, I think we'll do, it's fairly solid, even though it's thin in spots. We'll get this bit of junk out of the road off the corner, a bit of the old stuff, and we'll rebuild this. Might cut it right off, we'll see. Actually what we might do is just trim that through here. We'll leave these two, and we might cut this off and we'll just lay a bit of this in here. I think this is at 2mm. The heavy gauge stuff, or whatever that is, 14 gauge, whatever it is. Not sure if it's that thick or not. Doesn't matter, that's what I'm going to use. What's that? It's not big enough though. What's that? I don't know. I could use that. We have to double check the thickness of that. That might be 1.6 or 16. That's definitely the heavy. Yeah, but we'll repair that so it's ready to put back on in the morning, and then we can finish dressing this up in the morning or whatever. We'll have the corners of this up, trim this stuff off. I just left it long because I wasn't quite sure exactly what we were doing. But yeah, and then we'll carry on with that. Alrighty, so I've got that basically prepped for in the morning. We'll do the corners when I've worked out exactly with this. We've got this repaired, hammered a little bit of a dimple in there. So what we'll do is end up drilling a couple of holes in here, probably 2 or 3 or 4 holes or whatever, across here, and we'll weld that onto there in the morning. And that piece goes against that edge, and then we can finish the corners off. I should have left it until I sort of got that on, just so I know exactly what I need to do with the corners, trim it off and whatever, and I'll weld the corners up. But yeah, I don't know if they're meant to be, but I will. It's kind of hard to tell. Let's have a quick look here. I don't know if they were, but we'll make them welded up. That'll make them a little bit strong in the back. Kind of dress this up and beef it up in the corners. So anyway, we'll see you in the morning, and we'll get that on and fix that, and then we'll get this sorted. Looks like I might have to do some small repairs in here. Hopefully I don't have to take that off. I might just try and spot it up and just grind it out if I can. Just there's only a few little pinholes in there, and yeah, and we'll repair the bottom of this, and we've still got to fix those cracks in the corner there. Probably I just put a few zaps in there to hold it in the right place while I welded that in so it wasn't springing back. So yeah, we'll do that in the morning. We'll catch you later on. Cheers. Morning. So we'll carry on from where we left off last night, which is we got that about 8 o'clock last night. We repaired that. A little bit of weld through primer on it. I'm not terribly happy with that weld through, but when you're putting surfaces of bare steel together, you kind of need something in there. So what I'll do is I'll drill some holes in here so we can attach that. I think it was welded on here as well, so I'll drill some holes through my little edge that I've got on there with a smallish bit, or I might, I don't know, you'll probably do it through there, and then we'll finish off the corners of, you can see, and then we'll tidy up these corners where I left it long because I wasn't quite sure how it originally sort of finished, because it was sort of half rotted away. There wasn't much left at the end of it. It actually flattened pretty well in the English wheel. Like I probably could have left some of this, but because it was getting a bit pitted in places, and it was still a bit, it's still got a bit of a curve in it that way. The English wheel actually flattened it out pretty nicely, but I just wanted to try and get rid of this overstretched steel from it being beaten at some point, or whatever the hell was going on there, because it was really really collapsed in. The English wheel definitely straightened it up, but yeah, I just wanted to get rid of that overstretched metal. So that's why I cut so far up. I probably could have cut it. I could have cut it back here somewhere, but it was still very stretched through here. Through here it's not too bad, you know. There's a little bit of damage up in here, but for the majority of it, a skimmer body filler and a little bit of dottling, and it'll just disappear. The rest of it's pretty good, and then we'll go on to finish that piece. We'll repair this piece right here. Might have to find something to. We have to make just a little buck piece or something. We'll just hammer this in. There's like a strengthener sort of thing there. We'll have to try and make something for that. Just wondering what I'm going to do there. Righty, so hopefully you can see me there, I'm not sure. But I've made this piece, I want to do a little bit more shape than the ends of it, but this is to help make that piece in there. I'm obviously going to make the piece to push it into, but I've found a bit of old bolt and I've ground it off. I just want to do a little bit more shape there, and I welded it onto just a hunk of friggin' whatever, bit of old plate that I chewed up with the mill to try and make something, but it didn't work in the end. The other thing I've been doing, I've just started doing a little bit of hammer and dolling. There's a few humps and bumps, or a few lump dents in this. I'm not quite sure from what, whether it was just use, because this here actually feels quite thin, this steel. Not sure. I don't know if this is maybe like 20 gauge or something like this side panel. It feels lighter than the rest. I don't know. Or is it just got thin back here? This feels real thin. Yeah, don't know, but and it's got a few dents in it, whatever, wee bit of damage. I'm just doing a little bit of hammering. There was a little bit through here. It's still a little wavy. I'll try and get as close as I can when I also do a little bit of body work. But it's a bit awkward because it's got that bead roll on it. It feels like it's sort of being hit from behind or something at some point. Not hard, but it's got a couple of lumps in it, you know what I mean? I'll do a little bit more hammer and dolling. But it's got a high spot here and then a high spot through here. The rest doesn't feel that bad. But yeah. So we'll do a little bit more hammer and dolling in there. There's a couple of high spots actually. There's a lot. Just to highlight the high spots. So let's see it a little bit better. Yeah, you can definitely see what I mean now. A bit of damage there from something at some point. Not sure what. It could have even been blasting maybe. Maybe they had the pressure a little high from the inside. I don't know. Yeah. Have to knock this down a bit, and then we'll just have to skim it with body filler. Righty, so I've been mucking around with this piece, trying to work out to replace this. I guess it's a strengthener sort of type thing there. The only thing I can get to that will work half decent is running the bead roller just along a piece of metal It's not as big, which is unfortunate. That's quite wide. I can't get, I tried cutting a hole in a piece of timber, but it just deforms too much. I could try it with something a bit harder, but I don't still don't know if it's going to be successful enough. It might, but this was my attempt with this into here. It probably needs to be thicker than that, but I sort of beveled the edges thinking maybe that would push into there and give me something half decent. It probably actually needs to be wider, but yeah, it was pretty average. I just don't have quite the materials here to do it with properly, if you know what I mean. So I think that would do. Like a wider bead roll would be nice. Like that's the widest one I've got, I think. Yeah, because I had the same issue with the seat pan. The originals were, that width. I would imagine they were probably the same. Machine probably, same sort of size thing did it. But yeah, because it's in there quite deep too. So it's basically the full depth of that bead roll too. As deep as I can get it. So yeah, what I was going to do is have a quick look at the chassis, just see where that bolt's on, just to see what's going on there. If it's just a stiffener, I'll just use that. If it's got to go over something, I'm not sure, but we'll just have a wee look and just make sure there's nothing there that's trying to clearance. We'll have a wee look before I see that one. There's not too bad, but I'm probably going to have to remake that one too because it's a bit rotten in around that part too. We look on the chassis here. See where the stuff goes in. Oh, it's to go over those dimples, isn't it? Just to go over these. So they're going to have to be big because we've got to go over those bolts. Right. I wonder if I can bead roll beside it and stretch it out. I'll try that. I might see if I can sort of do like it half a bead roll over and see if it'll push out. It's worth a try. Oh, no, it probably won't because it's, yeah. I'll do it anyway. I'll see what happens. It might be enough that I can hammer form it into it. If I do another bead roll beside it, I might be able to stretch it out afterwards. We'll see. I mightn't have any choice because it's got to go over those nuts and bolts and dimes. That's why it's there. So that makes sense. Right. I'm at a bit of a loss here. It's basically 3/4 or thereabouts, 20 mils, 3/4 wide, that bead. It might be slightly wider than that, but it's about that. But I've got no way of doing that nicely. Only thing I thought of is maybe messaging my brother, and he's a machinist, and see if he can make me a couple, because I've even Googled online to see if you can get like a 3/4 bead rolling die set, or 20 mil, or even inch, or something like that. Because I think that one there it's a little bit over 1/2 inch, this gap in here. So it's probably 1/2 inch on here, and this is a bit over. So yeah, I need like 3/4 or something like that to do it nicely. Because with a single bead roll, I can actually hammer around the end of it. It actually ends up looking quite good. That's my double bead roll, but it's a mess. You end up with a fucking mess. And you're going to end up doing a whole lot of frigging around trying to clean it up. So I'm just contemplating whether I get something made or whether I can try and find something I might ring these guys that we got this off, and just ask them whether they sell like single bead rolling dies, and whether they have like a 3/4 one or whatever, to try and put that in there. I try to hammer this in, like using that, but it's just not nice enough. It's not nice enough. It's going to look shit. Like if it takes me a few days to get that piece and then just weld it in afterwards, it's not a biggie. Like I can do all the rest of the repair, and we can just maybe come along and cut a piece out. You know, we can just roll it on a piece of scrap and then weld it in. You know, dress it up around it. Ideally, it would be nice to make that piece, roll that in, hammer around it, and then fit it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I can't do it prettily and without causing a lot of work to clean it up and make it look decent, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, I think that's my first choice. I'm going to ring these guys to see what it costs to make, to get them, if they have them, if they're available, without buying a whole freaking massive set, which would be okay, but I don't have the funds until the next lot of money comes in for this yet. Otherwise, I might ring my brother and get him to make me one. Right, so yeah, I can't get a die. They may be available somewhere else, but the guys that we got that off don't have anything that big. So yeah, I've messaged my brother. Hopefully, he can make me one reasonably quickly. It doesn't matter if, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's not a few days away. You know, within the next week would be good, sort of type thing. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do there. But I'm going to carry on finishing fixing this, and we'll leave it without it. Yeah, we'll just bead roll a bit of scrap later on, the right size, and weld it in. I think that's about the only thing I can do. It's not ideal, but it's kind of what I think I might have to do. At least I can get everything else repaired, and then it's all I got to do is cut that piece out and weld it in later on both, because I have to do the other one as well. That's kind of borderline past it too with other bits around there, so it would be nice to make that piece and then just roll it in there and then put it in, mark where it needs to be, and just roll it. But yeah, can't really do it. I could leave them, but I'm trying to get the metal work done so I can do most of the body work. Like I could actually do a lot of the body work on it, just not go near that piece and then weld that in and finish it off later on. Like I wouldn't prime it, but I could do all the body filler, you know, skim the body filler and whatever else, and just miss that area down near the bottom in the meantime. Yeah, because I'm trying to get this thing frickin', as I said, I want to try and get it painted, if I can, in the next probably 4 to 5 weeks, if I can. I'm hoping I can do it in 5 if I have to. I'm just going to really push to try and get it done. So yeah, I've spent enough time trying to work out how to do this. No, I can't do it cleanly, so I think that's the next best bet. It's either that, or I get somebody to make me a die to stamp it out. But that's somebody else's. You know, it's sort of a one-time deal, whereas a bead roll, at least I could use that for lots of other things, whereas if I've got a 4-inch by 3/4 or 20mm bead roll, or stamp, I can only ever use it for one thing, but at least the bead roll, I can roll it backwards and forwards, do a bit of hammering around it, hammer around the edges, and then weld it in, you know, clean it up, weld it in, and do a little bit of body work and paint it and be done. you know, as I think if you get it made at stamping, it's one of those things you're going to use it. You might use it occasionally, but it's one of those things you know you're going to use once in a blue moon. Whereas the bead roll, if I've got it, I might use it, you know, for something like I would have used it for that seat base with those big heavy beads. And I have struck other cars too where the bead rolls have never been wide enough for some of the big ones. You get some of the big heavy bead rolls on the floor, so it would come in handy for some things like that at some other point. But yeah, anyway, we'll carry on and we'll work out what we're going to do to fix this rest of this clout shit up. Right, so I've cut the bit off that I want to replace. I may go longer here. I need to have a better look here. I think I might better just try and weld up some of the bits that are on here. I might have to go way up into here, I don't know. Because there is some pinholes in it. I didn't really want it to go all the way up here, but I might have to just look at another look at it, unfortunately. But yeah. I'm just thinking maybe, I don't know, if I can trace this line good enough and bend it here, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm either going to have to stretch it, or if I can get it to bend in the right place, it'll naturally curve where I want it to. But I may have to come along here and just stretch this a little bit, just so it's got the natural curve of this, because it's not straight. I've already set this in the, what do you want to call it? The finger brake, and just to see whether, how close it is. And it is, but it's not really. But I'm wondering if I can make it straight and then just give it a few stretches. So anyway, I'll go start making this piece, and I might have another quick look, or at least draw this out. Another quick look, see if I need to come up in here further. And we'll go from there. I might have to cut this right out, I think, over top of this, because it's really dirt and shit's got them behind. So yeah, I've actually got a whole pile of dirt on the other side now. Where I knocked it all out, but yeah, she's pretty thin and rotten, and it's only 0.75 mil. So 1 mil is 19 gauge. So 0.75, I don't know, would be like, I don't know, it might be 22. It's quite thin, the edge of this. I don't know why they've made it so thin, but they have. Yeah. There's a lot of the other cars, a lot of the rest of the cars, like, you know, 19 and 16 and whatever else, but it's weird that this piece is like really, really thin. You know, they might have been better off making it a wee bit heavier, but they're probably trying to keep the weight down too, I suppose, but a little bit. Yeah, we'll make this and yeah, we'll decide whether we're going to add a big long freaking stalk on it. Righty, I decided what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to try and follow this as straight as I can, then I'm going to remove these. So it'll kink this, and then I might put these back or shift some along or whatever, and then bend this piece of it, and then I'll play with it a little bit with hammer and dolly over something, and maybe shrink until we get it to sort of be that shape. I wish this is where a tipping die would be handy too, because I could tip this edge, run along here and tip that up. But yeah, it's not one of those things I've got yet either, but it's coming. Will just make life a little bit easier sometimes. But yeah, like I could hammer it over the edge of something, but I think what I'll do is I'll just try and break this a little bit. I'm not going to break it a whole lot, maybe even 30 or 40 degrees or something like that, sort of about halfway, and then I'll come back here and do this on a different angle and get rid of some of the other things so it's not actually bending it. And I'll do this piece and then we'll massage it from there, just to get me started. I think that's what I'll do. So we'll do that and we'll come back to you. Righty, so what I end up doing is just restricting down just a couple of fingers. I end up taking different bits out different times, and just sort of went along and sort of broke at the best I could to give us a half start. Actually, I might just pinch it in the ear. Just have a wee bend in there where it hasn't really been sort of kinked much. And I'll have to move that along a little bit to here somewhere. But yeah, just put it so it's got that bend line on it, and then I can manipulate it from there. Obviously I'm going to have to do some shrinking and manipulating and whatever to get it to fit back on here. We'll have to do some manipulation. I've left a bit extra material on here because it's got that little roll edge. I don't think there's actually a wire in there, but it's just been pinched over, and then it's got like a little edge on it. I'll try and mimic that if I can. It's something I haven't done much of, but I might better do the same thing with the thing and just pinch it up, and then we'll try and, I don't know, bring it round somehow and fold it back underneath by a little bit and join it in. Or, I don't know, I might be able to cut that piece off the other one and nick it along the edge, but it's pretty rotten in spots too, so. Whew, she's getting warm in here. Damn, I'm starting to sweat already. But yeah, we'll carry on. We'll, yeah, get this to play ball with this shrinker and stretcher and some hammer and dialing, and we'll get it to fit. Alright, I'm getting close with this, but it's almost lunchtime. That bead roll thing screwed me up for probably a good hour. I probably lost a good hour plus screwing around trying to figure out how I could do that. I still haven't heard back from my brother, but hopefully I'll hear back from him shortly. He'll be on his lunch break, so I think we're pretty close. We've got to do a little bit of repair in here and clean this up, and obviously clean that up and paint it and whatever. A wee bit of trimming to make it fit. This is like too long here on this edge. And I need to work out what I'm going to do with this little funny edge that we got here. I need to try and work that in somehow. Bring these two pieces back over here so it's easy to sit on the bench and show you and talk about it. So yeah, I don't know whether I can maybe nick this off close and just weld it on. I don't know, I could try and just clean it up, and then obviously at some stage we'll have to make that if we can get the bead roll or dies made. I don't know if I can weld that on there or not, or what I'm going to do, because that's a tight little bend. And again, if I had probably with a tipping die, I could probably, you know, tip that bit on the edge, you know, keep pounding it flat, and then when I've got it sort of tipped over so far, I could probably bend it over, but I just don't quite have the means to that. But I'll work it out. Righty, so, here. Sorry, I got the fan going, it's so freaking hot. Welded this up, I've got to grind it in here. I just basically built it up until it filled the hole in there. We're about to weld up this little brace here. It's got some cracks in it. I'm going to weld that up, and then over in here, this little brace here, I'm going to weld that back on and grind it up, and then I might just do a couple reinforcing welds in here and here. Just might build it up a little bit at the corners, maybe. We'll see. Maybe this one. This is kind of hard to get into. I might just put a couple of little welds in there just to strengthen it up a little bit. And then in here, there's some welds to build up too. Just where it's all cracked and broken. So yeah, I'll just build them up, and I'll just clean them up on the outside where it's seen, if it's seen. We'll dress it a little bit, and try and leave as much weld there as possible within reason, just so it's got a little bit more strength, which already cracked and broken. Some of them I would probably put a little drill hole so the weld doesn't split any further, but hopefully it should be okay. It's not going to be doing a lot of miles. If it was something being used all the time, I probably would, or if it's a place that was probably maybe going to break, but I think it should be okay. It's got a fairly good solid brace on that for the main part of it, and just a lot of bolts in the rest, so well, yeah, no, it's actually not really. It's not like the other one where it bolts all the way along here like the Studebaker. It's only really got these and that, so, but yeah, anyway, oh, a couple around here. But yeah, we'll get those bits welded up, and then we might start, or we'll start fitting the other piece that I've made, except for obviously the bead roll. It looks like my brother's going to make it for me. I've just sent him some more measurements and did a little video for him with some more accurate measurements. So yeah, hopefully he can make that for me in the next, I don't know, if hopefully in the next week. I'll just see what he says with those bits and pieces through, because he wanted me to bring him in a die, but I just measured it on camera just so he could see. So, but yeah, hopefully he can make it in the next week. And he said, "Oh, do you want it hard?" And I said, "No, don't worry about it. I've only just got to do 8 inches, and if I use it again and it gets a bit out of shape, or it gets a bit out of shape, you know, for all that I'm going to even be using it, it won't matter." But yeah, it'll handle a certain amount. I'm not too stressed about it. If I find that I'm using it heaps, well, we might dress it up and then harden it. But yeah, but we'll carry on. Righty, I'm having some success here. So this piece here with its little folded over edge, and it's almost got like a little, it's got a wee kick up here before it rolls over. And I was really wondering how I was going to do that, but I come up with a bit of an idea through the bead roller. So what I did is I got one of the step dies first, and I didn't put a lot of pressure on it, but a little bit. And I run it through and bent this edge over where it needs to be bent, and like put a step in it, and then I come back along that step with a shallow step die. So I used the deepest one first up, but I didn't do it real deep. I just went along till I got enough to roll that edge over, and then I come along with a shallow step die with just a little bit of pressure on it, and I run along that edge just inside it, and I did it a couple passes and just sort of like another quarter of a turn or half a turn until I got a bit of a bead along there. I don't actually need this piece out here, as you can see. So what I'll do is I'll cut this here and fold that under, and then I'll hammer. We'll probably trim this off and hammer that flat again, just so it's a closer mimic. But yeah, and then I just folded this down over the edge of the anvil, knocked this down, and then just turned it over like this, and I started hammering it over. It's bending over a piece of piss. So what I'll do is chop this now, bend the rest of that over, and nick this off, and then flatten it back off, so it's close to that. I think it's pretty reasonable. It's not perfect, but it's pretty reasonable. I would have liked this to bend slightly better, but hey, again, you can't look at one side or the other. But you could try and get it nicer. Probably if I didn't have quite so much material, it mightn't have bent it over so hard. But it is what it is. I'm actually going to cut this off through here now too. So I've only just got to flatten off that little bit. So it's not a whole heap underneath like that. So yeah, that's how I did that. It took a wee bit of thinking, but at the end of the day, it wasn't actually terribly difficult to do. I might do, when I do the other side, I'll show you, hopefully, it's probably maybe tomorrow morning and it's cooler, because at the moment I am absolutely dripping. It's just running off me. So yeah, that's why I'm not filming much, because it'll be too hot for the camera to run for any decent length of time. I'll just bring you back with updates, and hopefully it's cooler tomorrow, and I'll maybe some of these bits I can show you how I did it. And we'll put it in the same video, or it might be in the next video, sort of type thing. But yeah, that's how I did that anyway. So yeah, I'll carry on and get this finished off, at least then I can get it welded in. And then when my brother gets this bead roll die made, we can come along. I don't know if I'll get this in there and successfully do it, but I think what we'll end up doing is getting a piece of sheet metal, making it, trim this out, and weld it in and dress it up. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. It's kind of a bit double Dutch. I would have liked to have done it when we're sort of all flat. Then I could have hammered around it, and then we could have folded this all up and would have been in there ready to go. But you know, sometimes you just kind of don't have a choice. I could have left it, but I wanted to get as much metalwork as done as possible. Could, and it's not hard to weld a 4-inch piece in here. You know, we can just cut it fairly close, grind it and clean it up. You know, a wee bit of body filler, Bob's your uncle, Mary's your aunt, and it'll be pretty. And nobody any wiser. Like, you know, if it wasn't rotten there, I would have cut it out and put it in like I did with the other ones. You know, with the hassles I'm having to try to do it. But you know, if I have to wait, you know, 4 or 5 days for a die to be made, and I can run that through next week or something like that, put it in, and then hopefully I'm finished most of this other stuff, metal work and welding and whatever. You know, it'll just be a bit of hammer and dialing, and again getting it all etched, and then we'll start scraping some body filler on, skim coated body filler on where it's needed, and block the piss out of it. You know, and probably skim coat it a couple of times, and block the crap out of it, and then we'll load it up with a heap of high build and blocker out, and then load it up again, and then hopefully we can paint it, because it's some of the stuff's fairly straight, so hopefully it won't be quite as much work as the old studio. It was pretty rough. I had to do a lot of repair, a lot of straightening on that. I'm not having to do quite so much straightening on this. Some like the pieces that really are the real critical, that are hard to make look good if it's bent up, you know, are good on this. You know, some of the other pieces won't be so hard to hide if it's not 100% dead perfect. And especially for the situation with the car. You know, I want it as nice as I can possibly give it back to him, but I'm really stretched for time here, so. Right. So I've ground that up, cleaned it up. I've got to do a little bit of finishing off in the morning, bits where I've missed. There was a wee bit of a gap here, so I've got to fill that. I might even weld it from behind and then ground it up as well. There's a few spots where I missed, obviously. I've got to weld this brace under there and trim that off, and then I've obviously drilled some holes and, you know, doll it up a little bit more and whatever. But that's pretty much good to go apart from that bead bit we're going to put in there. With the originals here. Apart from that bit, where that bead goes to go over the rivets and bolts on the crossbeam which hold the engine in. That's where that is. That's where those. That's why it's got that big clearance piece there. So yeah, that's kind of that done, basically. A little bit of clean up, whatever. And then we'll give this a bloody good clean up in the morning. It's too... I might come down here later on if it cools down a little bit, but it's too freaking hot. I'm just sweating everywhere. Not getting anywhere. So yeah, we'll start on that one in the morning, I think. And try and get it done. I was hoping to get this done and start the back end of that one, but it's too hot. I'm not hanging around here. I'm going to go home and relax. I'm just absolutely exhausted from the heat. I'm just dripping with sweat. As you can see, it's just running off me. I'm very dirty. So yeah, there's a breeze coming in that door now, which is good, but whew, she's warm today. Hopefully tomorrow might be a bit cooler. We'll see. But yeah, I'm just exhausted from the heat. I'd carry on, but it's basically 5 o'clock now. I'd carry on to about 6, and try and finish this off. But I'm just exhausted. I want to go home and sit down and put my feet up for a while. I might come down for maybe an hour later on if it cools down a little bit, but I don't see it. But yeah, tomorrow's another day. Oh no, I'm working on the studio tomorrow. We're going to get that running tomorrow. I might shoot back down later on. We'll see. Or actually, no, if I'm down here at 7 o'clock in the morning, I can do most of the things I want to do to that at 7 in the morning. I've got to put the bolts in the back of the gearbox and tighten the nuts up at the front of the motor to hold it down before we obviously try and start it. And I'll drain the oil out of it, and I'll start filling the diff in the gearbox. I'll start filling the diff in the gearbox and the motor full of oil. So that's kind of ready to go when Dad gets here, and then we'll start buttoning up the wiring and whatever, and see what else we can get achieved during the day. Now, hopefully it's not too hot tomorrow. But yeah, I can't wait to try and get that fired up. Be awesome if we can get that fired up, because at least then with a little bit of mucking around, that can train it all the way to the upholsterers, and they can sort of do their piece, and then it can come back. We'll just go over it, make sure everything that sort of needs to be done for the upholsterers is done, and we'll go from there. We'll have to put those side curtain bits together. I could probably get away without the little rivet pieces in the side trims and the door caps. I don't think that'll matter much. Yeah, we'll worry about that tomorrow anyway. It's too freaking hot. Go home and try and cool off, and might sit down and watch a movie or something, or have a beer. Not that I'd normally drink much, but it's not enough today to have one. Anyway, we'll catch you later on.